chessboard needs to be placed in such a manner that each player has the light colored square on the bottom right hand side. Regarding the pieces, the second row for each side is filled with pawns, just like this. And the first row should be set up as follows. The rooks belong to the corner squares, and now moving inward, the knights belong next to the rooks. Yes, this is called a knight and not a horse. Then next to the knights we have our bishops. After this we place our queens on her matching color, which means the white queen goes on a white square and the black queen goes on a black square. And then finally we place the king on the remaining square. If the board is set up correctly, each piece will be facing one another. The queen across the queen and the king across the king. That's how it should be. The player with the white pieces always moves first and makes one move, and then black makes one move. Each player will make alternate moves like this until the game ends. Each of the 6 different pieces have a unique way of moving. Let's start with the piece which is the easiest to understand, and that's the rook. The rook moves in a plus pattern just like this, which means it can move any number of squares either up, down, left or right as highlighted in this position. Rooks can capture the first enemy piece they move into. When you capture an enemy piece in chess, you simply go to the square it occupies and remove it from the board. Now let's talk about bishops. The bishops can move diagonally any number of squares or in an X pattern just like this. From this position, it can go to any of the squares I have highlighted in red. Bishops can capture the first enemy piece they move into. Now let's look at the queen. The queen is considered the most powerful piece on board because it can move both like the rook and bishop, which means it can move any number of squares vertically, horizontally or diagonally. From this position, the queen can go to any of the squares highlighted in red. The queen can capture the first enemy piece it moves into. Let's talk about the knights now. The knight moves in the shape of an L, moving 2 squares in one direction except diagonal and then 1 square just like that. The knight from this position can move to any of the squares highlighted in red. The knight is the only piece that can jump over other pieces, meaning if there were any pieces here right next to the knight, he can simply jump over those pieces and move. If there is any opponent piece on these highlighted